is producer Robbie West. Good morning, Robbie.
Morning. How you doing?
Good. I didn't even have it down as a topic for today, but of course, it's been exactly 1 year since President Trump began his second term, and it feels like it's just flying right by. Not really.
But yeah, no, it's slow. I mean, it feels like we should already be 2.5, maybe 3 years in.
It's crazy. Obviously the speed, this was something that Stephen Miller and the two Stevens and Steve Bannon conceived of, lightning quick. I got to say, setting aside the politics here for a moment, just tactically, flooding the zone with new content constantly seems to really be working for the administration. I mean, everyone else is playing catch up in the media. And on the left, it's just, it's kind of like, but wait, there's more. It's like the Ginsu knife commercial all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of what we talked about yesterday. If you only have a couple of different options if you're trying to go against a bureaucracy. One way is that you just simply rush it. It doesn't matter if it's rushing it with proposals or you're rushing it with people. The results are always going to be the same. Just overwhelm it, just with a wave of activity. And I think that's what we're seeing here. It's just Trump is he's doing what Biden did, but he's doing it legislatively as opposed to just with a human wave. It's just our system's not designed to handle that.
No, the thing is that, I think tactically of Mussolini, who was the father of fascism, right? A lot of Americans don't realize how early he came to power, right? Like 1920. And, and he was the OG guy, and he was obsessed with the cult of action. To him, it was more important to distinguish your regime from, plodding electoral democracy, to do something, anything, no matter what it was. It wasn't really that important whether it was good or bad or effective or not, but do something. Constantly be in the news, constantly have a new proposal, constantly, keep your opponents on their toes. Don't let them breathe. And just because otherwise you end up with, a system that people are dealing with their problems every single day, right? They have bills they can't pay. They have illnesses they can't cure. They have annoyances that don't go away. And they wake up every morning and they read the news, and there's kind of like in a normal electoral democracy, there's nothing much going on. And it doesn't seem like the system is responsive. Here, it's exactly the opposite. You have so much going on that you don't even notice that the system isn't being responsive to your things. They're doing something, but they're not really, they're not doing anything about your thing, but they are doing something. It works for a while. It doesn't work forever, but it does work for a while.
Yeah, but if it works long enough to do what you want, that's all you need. I mean, now, as you know, I don't sleep a whole hell of a lot. And last night, I was having another one of my sleepless nights. I was up reading a biography of Stonewall Jackson, and one of the quotes as attributed to him is always just mystify and be aggressive and deceive your opponents every chance that you get, and that's how a smaller force is able to beat a bigger one. And if that works in the military, I think Trump is showing it. The same thing works in politics. You just stay on them like a tick on a mule, and you don't let up.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like it's hard to distinguish to separate the tactics from the policies, but tactics are worth noting here, right? I mean, look, it's not like this is inherently a conservative or a right wing or a fascist thing. FDR, his first 100 days, he kept the hits coming, and hell, in some ways, the right is still reeling from what he did back in 1933 and 1934.
Yeah, well, it works. I mean, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier. It's just our system is designed to operate in a frame of gridlock. That's why we have a separation of powers. That's why our government's set the way that it is. It's not designed to work fast, by definition. That's a feature, not a flaw. And some presidents, the FDR, Trump, I think you make the case for Andrew Jackson too. They figured out how to break that mold, and if you're able to, then you can do whatever you want, because the system, by the time they figure out what's already been happened, you already been had.
Yeah. Yep. No question. All right. So here's what we're talking about today. And as usual, we love your questions and comments in the live chat. So if you're watching live this morning, as we begin the second year of the Trump's second term, if you're watching in the 9 o'clock hour here on YouTube or Rumble, please put your question in there and Robbie and I will get to it. Just a reminder, if you're just joining us, John Kiriakou will be back tomorrow. The big story, I'll go in backwards order here, from sort of the lesser story to the big story. Still, the ISIS war against the city of Minneapolis continues. BLM Minneapolis organized a protest against a pastor in Minneapolis who also is a member of ICE. They went and basically were arguing that he shouldn't be a pastor there. The Attorney General Pam Bondi is investigating the protesters. I don't really know what she's saying it's discrimination against Christians. That's one hell of a stretch. Also, a Hmong guy there in Minneapolis was dragged out of his house, elderly dude, wearing nothing but a blanket. They basically threw him out into the street and detained him. Then later they discovered he was the wrong guy. We got to talk about what's going on with ICE in Minneapolis. China, Russia, Turkey are all countries that have been invited by Trump to join his Gaza Board of Peace. We'll talk about what the Board of Peace is. And by the way, there's a $1 billion per country price tag if you accept becoming a member of this so-called Board of Peace. And finally, this is what we probably should talk about first. So Trump communicated with the head of Norway that he was really thinking about getting the Nobel Peace Prize, which is why he was trying to end wars all over the place. But after he got snubbed for the prize, not quite seeming to understand that the Norwegian government doesn't award it, it's a private Nobel committee that does it. He said he doesn't have to think about peace as much, and that he's now going to be thinking instead about what's good for the United States. And what's good for the United States is that we have to acquire Greenland. For a lot of people, they're saying this is like 25th Amendment worthy. That this is a very strange, leap to connect him being turned down for the Nobel Peace Prize to like saying, I want to invade Greenland now, which, by the way, Denmark and Norway are also not the same country, Mr. President.
Well, I mean, it's Europe. I mean, I'm sure that's what Trump is looking
at.
And
Scandinavia. It's Scandinavia.
Sure. I mean, they're looking at it. They're just separated by a little strait of water. It's close enough. It's kind of like Cuba. You could easily mistake that for South Florida.
Or Mexico.
Mistakes happen. I mean, listen, honestly, mistakes happen. But as far as 25th Amendment worthy, I don't think so. To be honest with you, I wish Trump was crazy, because then he'd be less dangerous.
So you think this is all just like bluster and?
Trump is he's a narcissist to the absolute core, and he's not used to being told no. He's not used to being snubbed. Up until he decided to.
Well, he's used to it. He just doesn't like it.
Well, that's I see your point. But the problem is that Trump is not a gracious person. Like, for example, there's people in the chat who think that you and me are twits, and I find that kind of amusing. It's funny. I kind of chuckle at it, but that's because neither one of us are Trump. If either one of us were Trump, we'd be retaliating. How dare you say mean things like that to me, and then just kind of go ham. That's how Trump is built. Like, the dude has, the old saying that turn the other cheek. Trump has never got that memo, and he never will get that memo. And so he sees everything as a slight. He sees everything as an insult. I think he's a very arrogant, very prideful person. And if you hit him where it hurts, which is his pride, then he's going to act like a toddler. And the problem is that he has the intellect to make that work. And more to the point, now as president, he has the power to make that hurt.
Let's do some comments, Robbie, shall we? Since you mentioned the comments. Question for me from Exile, the Knights of Malta now. Ted, what's different? Did you shave a mustache or something? No, I haven't had a mustache in many, many years. I am just wearing a turtleneck sweater because it is cold as balls. Matina V, tactics and functioning government are different, quite true. Alexander Leutche, Italian fascism blessed us with futuristic art and modernist radicalism, while Hitler liked pompous classicism and kitschy rustic mountain cottage drawings because he was an Austrian backwards joke. Won't argue with that. US XXX Rod 21, thanks for the $2. When it comes to tariffs on Europe, isn't it a moot point since the Supreme Court already decided the president can't levy tariffs? Actually, the Supreme Court hasn't decided that, right? Have they?
They haven't ruled on it yet.
Yeah. So I think the Supreme Court's really struggling with this issue because they really do want to give this president everything that he wants. But, I think the Constitution's really clear that he cannot unilaterally levy tariffs.
Well, the Constitution's clear on a lot of things the government does.
Yes.
So, but let's not pretend that actually matters anymore. It doesn't. I mean,
go ahead.
Well, it's just that's one of the things. Whenever people accuse me of being a conservative, it's like that's the farthest thing from the truth of what I am. There's nothing here to conserve. It's gone. Like all we have is what's left of the facade of what America used to be. We're not a republic anymore. We're an oligarchy. The Constitution, it's a relic of a bygone era.
I think we've been an oligarchy from day one. This was not a real revolution that we had here, 250 years ago. This was this was basically an independence struggle led by the ruling class, who remains the ruling class afterwards. It's not a revolution. A revolution is the replacement of one set of elites by another. We had the same elites before and after the revolution.
Yeah, but we had a different system. So I think that's how you're able to kind of justify it. You don't have to guillotine everybody and then install another king 5 years later.
Yeah, no. I like that. I think the guillotine is underrated. J-Rock, these two twits should take the day off till John returns. I don't think John would want us to do that.
No, but he probably wouldn't. And J-Rock, I mean, he's an awesome guy. He was just kidding. I saw that and I chuckled. It's like, hey, if my sleep-deprived addled brain.
Wait, you know him?
Well, he's just always on the chat. I don't know him personally, but he's just always on. He's an active chatter. He's a fun guy. I like him. So I don't think he's being a troll. I think he's just kind of poking fun.
Okay. Well, we'll have to. I'll have to disagree while disagreeing. Frasmataz. Apparently, the law that protects abortion clinics also protects houses of worship from harassment and protesters outside, which sort of implies abortion is a sacrament, not Christian. Hilarious. I didn't know that. In this particular case, though, the call was coming from inside the house. So this would be like you're already inside the abortion clinic yelling at the abortion doctors because the BLM guys were already inside the church. Desert Fox, what do we make of the recent silver price jump?
It's people are worried about the economics. I mean, there's only so much inflation that you can create to pay a country's bills before you wreck the currency. And so whenever people start getting that kind of way, they just start going back to hard assets, whether it's gold, silver, oil, platinum, whatever else, something that's tangible besides, just fake money has value because the government says it does.
Yeah, no, for sure. Whenever precious metals are always considered a safe harbor in times of economic uncertainty. And certainly we have that now. Trump's trade war with Europe caused the Dow Jones Industrial Average to go down 700 points yesterday. Markets do not like instability, and people always think that they like to go to gold and silver. Silver's been at a record high now for a long time. I mean, it's really it's very, very. I don't see sign of that letting up. I wish I'd bought more of it when I was a kid.
Yeah, I never had the opportunity. One thing, full disclosure, friend of the show, since I am now working for myself full time. Achilles Larea, he took over my 401k, and he's all over the place. So you can definitely see the trend with people just trying to just go into hard assets besides just paper money. It's all about you gotta have some prospecting, but you also gotta have some defensive plays too. That's what silver is.
Tammy says the turtleneck is a hit. Thanks, Tammy. Daytonians know best, always. So that's pretty funny. The turtleneck brings a sort of androgynous energy to the room, says Blake. And I don't know about that. Hilarious.
Yeah, yesterday people were going on about my flannel shirt. Today I'm wearing my Carhartt, and it's just like crickets. Maybe I should wear flannel all the time.
You can have. Aren't there flannel Carhartts? I'm
sure that there are, but I don't have any.
I think maybe I'm just hallucinating that, but I think I've seen that. Frasmataz, I'm definitely getting a 60s and Steve Jobs vibe. Androgynous futurism is cool, though. All right, then, fine. No problem here. Okay, let's do some more questions here. Sorry. Okay. Robbie, what do you think of Putin being placed on the board given recent developments? All right, so let's talk about that. So Donald Trump has announced the formation of what he calls the Board of Peace, which was originally, he said that it was going to be something that was going to govern the Gaza Strip. There's a one-page memo that describes what the Board of Peace is. The word Gaza doesn't appear in this memo anywhere, so we don't really know what this Board of Peace would do. But what's being implied is that these would be the people who would be reconstructing Gaza after the war is over. The war is not really quite over. Each country that joins would be expected to pony up $1 billion. Countries that are considering it, like Canada, are asking the U.S. and not really getting a clear answer that, well, where is that $1 billion going to go? And Trump's like, yes, it will. So they don't. There's all these questions. But what's really even more interesting about this, I mean, it seems like such a very weirdly boneheaded scheme. Two things about this, Robbie. I don't know if you heard. Number one, the chairman of the Board of Peace will be. I'm only going to give you one guess. But guess. But the thing is, it's for life until he quits. So even like if we have a future president ever again, at this point, you do have to say if. There would be, that he would be the head of the Board of Peace until he decides to step down. And then the other thing that's weird about it is he views this almost as a replacement for the United Nations. Like, in other words, this would not just be a board that comes together to rebuild Gaza. This would be a board that would adjudicate international disputes that the UN has been unwilling or unable to do so. So with all that background, and feel free to comment on any or all of it or none of it, so Trump is inviting lots of countries that previous administrations have kind of treated like pariahs or semi-pariahs, namely Turkey, China, and Russia, to join the Board of Peace. And so it's funny because Russia is being criticized for being invited because they're at war with Ukraine. I mean, the U.S. is at war all over the place with Venezuela, among other places, but whatever.
Well, here's my question. I mean, Trump would have to lift the sanctions against the Russians because otherwise there's no way that Putin could pay the entrance fee. That's
true. He'd have no ability to send the money.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think
he could tell Trump to take it out of the money that that's been stolen from Russia already. From their
but we gave that to the Ukis, didn't we?
Well, we're trying to. We haven't that's in the works because the Belgians are very, very worried about that. They hold most of those assets, and they're afraid that no one would ever deposit anything there ever again in their banks, which is, of course, true.
Well, I mean, if I deposited my paycheck into my bank and then my bank decided to give it to somebody else, I don't think I would bank with them anymore either. and I would encourage my friends and family to not do that either. So I could see that.
So yeah. So anyway, so I mean, first of all, what do you think of this board of peace?
It's a joke.
That's my thought too. So why are countries talking to him about this? And is anyone really going to pony up $1 billion?
Well, I mean, that's
$1
the $1 million question.
billion.
So, and the reason I'm looking over to the right for the people who are asking is because I'm setting up the TMI show while I'm doing this. I'm doing double duty, so apologies. I'm not whittling. Contrary to Ted,
that was before the show.
Yeah, it was. But no, I think there's a couple of different reasons. One, I mean, the United States is one of the three major powers on the planet. Of the three, it is arguably the strongest. And if you have, if you are a nation and you have territorial disputes or have a historical disputes with somebody else, then it makes sense to get in bed with a country that understands what that means. I mean, the Chinese and the Russians want stability because they're interested in business. The United States is in the business of empire. Empire thrives best when there is no stability. That's the whole point. You come in and you bring order and you take resources and then you expand your markets at someone else's expense. And so if you're a country, say Turkey, which is guilty of committing more genocides than any other country any other modern state that I can think of, and you have territorial ambitions in northern Iraq, your Greece looks like a nice little morsel you can snack up again. The Balkans are kind of appetizing. Then why wouldn't you get in bed with an aggressive expansionist imperialist power that's able to prop up your currency?
Good question.
So that's what I would do. Seriously.
Do you think Putin is going to bite?
I think. Well, if Putin does, and he'll pose the same question that I just did, that would have to mean that the United States would have to drop all sanctions. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no way Trump can get his bribe.
Right. And that is what this is, of course.
100%. So, Mr. President, I like what you're saying. We are one of the three great powers. We can work together on this. I want to appreciate the fact that you acknowledged our victory over NATO in Ukraine. I wanted to thank you for recognizing the spheres of influence are a thing, that this is a era of great power politics, kind of like it was in the 1900s and 1800s. And so we would like to do business with you, but we can't because of these sanctions. So if you can make those go away, we'd be more than happy to get in the shower and swap some spit with you. But until then, we can't.
We got a gun control question here from Venkatesh. Why do Americans fixate on guns? It's rather peculiar. Ted, you're a rational lefty. Your thoughts on gun control in the U.S.? I wonder why you guys want guns when there's a school shooting every other day. Well, Robbie, I want your detailed thoughts on this because you have guns. You are a avid Second Amendment supporter. I'm also an avid Second Amendment supporter, but I think I come to it from a different point of view. Basically, if the Constitution, I think, were ratified today, if this country were brand new, I find it very hard to believe that we would have ended up with a Second Amendment. We don't have a militia now, really, and for any worth thinking about. We are not an agrarian society anymore. We don't have a frontier where we have like Brits and Frenchmen and Native Americans who are shooting at our colonists. So I don't think it's something that he would even cross the minds of those of the new founding fathers or father. I guess we'd have to call them the founding parents at this point. I don't think that would happen. So it's vestigial, and it's a vestige of our pioneer spirit. And now that it's there, it's kind of like no one wants to take it away. And I think there's also kind of an arms race aspect to this too. I mean, the concern is that there's already tons and tons of guns out there. There would never be even if you eliminated the production of new firearms completely, there's so many millions of them out there that they will continue to shoot up schools for many decades to come. So the thinking is, well, I want to have the right to be able to buy one to protect myself from one of the other assholes who I don't trust, from who already has one or 10 or whatever. I think that's kind of what it is, right? It's kind of like when you go to buy a lot of people go and buy SUVs because they're worried about getting into car accidents, driving a small car and being run over by an SUV. They wouldn't buy an SUV if everyone else had a small car. I mean, I think there's a lot more to it than that, but those are some of my thoughts.
I think what it is, it's a way to kind of let to be honest, it's a check. It's a check on power. It's a check on authority. So kind of go back into American history a little bit for our foreign friends. When the revolution, the whole reason that the Revolutionary War got started is that the British marched on two little towns called Lexington and Concord with the express purpose of taking the guns, and the colonists opened fire on them, and that touched off 8 years of war. What it is a check against a overreach of federal power. Now, I think that you can make the argument that that entire idea has failed given where we currently are. I think that you can trace that directly back to the horrors of the war between the states. A lot of people call the American Civil War because that was the most destructive and most deadly war in American history. I mean, it broke the back of the militia system. If I was a lefty like Ted, or even as a right winger like I am, because I'm a small government guy, the last thing that I would ever want to do is allow the government to have a monopoly on force. Like, full stop. Because let's put it this way, let's just assume that you think that Trump is what a lot of people think he is, that he's a tyrant. Would you want him at that point with his military and with ICE and everything else to be able to just run roughshod and have nothing to worry about at all because the population has no way to fight back? He would have a monopoly on force, therefore he can do whatever he wants.
No, I mean, and honestly, look, this is like we've seen the Black Panthers even in recent days in Minneapolis, fully armed. Yep. And carrying openly. And I got to say, I mean, look,
I applaud them for it.
As a grandson of a French resistance fighter, it's a good thing that the French had guns before World War II, or they would have had great difficulty, even more than they already did, resisting the Germans. So, do I think Red Dawn is going to come, and do I think that the citizens are going to be able to overthrow the military forces of the United States? No, but there's never been any successful revolution that didn't involve ultimately civilians defeating a military that was better armed and better trained than they were. Revolutions are more than about a simple clash of weapons and arms. They're about the will to continue to rule. So I think as long as the government has guns, I think it's cool for the people to have them too.
And more to the point, the people should be as well armed as the government. I mean, that's the entire point. People, when they read the Second Amendment, they get hung up on the word regulated, and they seem to think that means that they try to put the modern definition on that word.
Mm-hmm.
When the Constitution was ratified, the word regulated meant trained. It was the responsibility of the state government. Listen to what I'm saying. It was the responsibility of the state government to provide the arms, provide the ammunition, and then to drill the militia. Who's the militia? The militia was every white man age 15 up to the age of 60. That's the militia. Now, keep in mind, most of these people couldn't even vote because they weren't landowners, but they were still part of the militia. The Constitution says the militia is the only is the only necessary institution. It doesn't say the Army is necessary or the Navy. It doesn't say the Congress is necessary. It says the only necessary institution was the militia because they were so fearful of centralized authority in one place. And look where we are now. I can't say they were wrong.
Well, yeah, and I think we have a lot of things wrong that are beyond that. So let's see. I saw a donation there that we have to say. It is a typo. He is bored with peace. Thanks, Beck, for the buck. Yeah, that too. Let's see.
Well, peace doesn't pay the bills. I mean, think
No.
about this. What props up the dollar? The dollar is not propped up by gold or silver. The dollar is propped up by the lead standard. Lead is in bullets. We need war or the economy collapses. That's just a fact.
I'm sorry. I was trying to read through the comments. Robbie, do we have an ad by any chance?
Hold on 1 second. Let me take a look here and see. Bet you we do. Hold on. We do. Hold on. I will pop it up for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you read much faster than I do, so thank you.
Yes, that's true. Dark Works 88 says the people are the militia. They're just not in good and proper working order, maybe on purpose.
Oh, for sure. There's a reason there's a dispensary shop on every corner.
Okay, here we go. You've probably noticed Rumble is growing fast, and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform, no pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO. No ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal.
Is the deal. Yeah. So what you want to talk about next, Ted?
Oh, that's a good question.
We have a smorgasbord.
Yeah, we do. It is.
Let's talk about the French.
Okay, let's talk
about your people.
Well, what do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about this? So Emmanuel Macron, is that what you want to talk about? He was he was texting the Donald, and he's basically like, "Yeah, I'm down with what you're doing in Ukraine, but this Greenland thing, I really don't get it." So Trump, the consummate troll, decides to share this. I mean, this is something no one should do. No one should ever cut and paste or send a private text that they got into a public forum. That's just something no one should do. It's wrong. It's immoral. People who do it should be sent to an ice gulag. Now, Trump went ahead and did that. But at that level, I mean, it's got to make, any world leader who's talking to Trump think anything I say to this guy could end up on his Truth Social. We're not going to be able to have any private conversations, really. So I don't really know exactly what Trump was trying to prove here. Basically, it's Macron saying, "What the fuck?" Yep. And then, and so, I mean, it's really disrespectful, to say the least.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the thing is, Trump's done this before. Do you remember back before him and Lindsey Graham got to be butt buddies, where Trump, in one of his earliest rallies, he actually gave out Lindsey Graham's cell phone number at one of his rallies and said, "I don't know if this number still works. Y'all call him, text him, see if it still works." Lindsey Graham ended up having to change his phone number because, I mean, that's, to your point, Trump is a troll. And so what he likes to do, he likes to bully. He enjoys blood sport. That's what he does. For him, that's his thrill. And I don't know. I don't really know how well it works against the head of state of I guess you could consider France a serious country. Maybe. I don't know if I do or not.
I mean, France is a serious country. I don't think it has a serious president.
Yeah, that's true. Serious question. When do you think was the last time that France had a serious president, like someone who actually put France first?
I mean, at least part of the time, François Mitterrand, he was a pretty good president. He served two terms. He was, his first act was to abolish the death penalty. They still used the guillotine, up until the 1970s. I think he was definitely interested in rebuilding France, which was still kind of a shithole country after World War II. Certainly Charles de Gaulle put France first. I mean, his politics were not my politics. He was a big right winger, but no one can argue that he didn't care about French greatness or making sure that France had its appropriate place on the world stage.
So probably about 40 years then.
At least 40 years, yeah.
I mean, that's a long time for a country to be rudderless. Look where we are.
I was going to say, I mean, when's the last time you think we had a president who really cared about the American people?
Gosh. I mean,
even somewhat, let's just say.
I think that you can make the case for Teddy Roosevelt. I think he honestly cared. I mean, legitimately, I think that he cared about the American working class. I think he cared about the country as a whole. He obviously cared about the land and protecting the culture. Coolidge, I think you can make the argument for him.
FDR certainly cared about, creating a safety net that did not exist before.
He did not give two shits about the American people, though. I mean, he stole the American people's gold. I mean, the dude he committed the largest theft in world history.
Yeah. By the way, how did that work? I know people in 1933, he ordered everyone to turn over like their gold pieces and gold jewelry, right?
Yeah.
Were people compensated, or were they just told to just bring it in?
Yeah, they were told to bring it in. They said, well, what we'll do is that we'll give you these silver certificates, and that it's a promissory note, and it'll be the same thing. It'll work just as gold. It just goes to show, it's just, I think that's really the beginning of the end of the dollar as a unit of measure. See, most people don't know this. The term dollar, it was a term for weight of gold. Like a dollar of gold was a certain amount. I can't remember what the actual weight of it was, but that's why it was called that. That's where the Spanish dollar comes from. Then you break it apart, and that's where the term bits comes from. FDR, he did all away with that. He did away with actually allowing people to have honest money in their hands. I mean, up to the point where gold is no longer recognized as legal tender, which I don't know how that works, because the Constitution says gold and silver are legal tender. But I just kind of points back to what we were talking about before. The Constitution doesn't matter.
Unfortunately not. Peruse is asking us, what are our thoughts on JFK? I think JFK was a very overrated president. He was very timid when it came to civil rights. His behavior during the Cuban Missile Crisis was not awesome. He let the CIA run rampant, and he accelerated our presence in Vietnam and set the stage for what LBJ did in Vietnam. I think he was kind of like a shitheel, to be honest. What do you think?
I think he definitely started out that way, and then I think that after the Bay of Pigs fiasco and then the Cuban Missile Crisis, I think he woke up and realized, this is not about hanging out with movie stars and cheating on my wife. That the decisions I make have real, honest to God consequences, not just for the American people, but for the world. And but
he didn't really have time if he had that realization. No. He never had any time to do anything about it.
No.
Langhorne Clemens, you don't think Nixon cared about putting America first? No, because he prolonged the Vietnam War and ordered the secret bombings of Cambodia and Laos. He was, obsessed with international affairs. So even though obviously, Nixon did do some things like wage and price controls, which really pissed off the corporations to no end, and created the Environmental Protection Agency and so on. I mean, Nixon was about Nixon, more than anything else.
Yeah, and also don't forget the fact that Nixon's the one who broke the Bretton Woods Agreement. So the reason why every dollar in our pocket is worth less than what was 6 months ago is because of Nixon.
Longtime listener, Yo Robbie. I was watching Jay Dyer break down a debate yesterday that John had with that Andrew Bustamante. Jay said he'd be interested in interviewing John. I don't know if you could put them into contact.
I don't know. I will reach out, though, and see what I can do.
Frasmataz, did we see his comment the other day? Dawned on me, Trump protecting Ross shooting good is that it shows the loyalty oath goes both ways. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm like dim. I'm not really following that.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand it too. I don't understand. I don't understand the comment.
Okay, that makes two of us. Okay.
I need some more 1775 coffee.
I
must refill my cup.
Yeah, exiled the Knights of Malta. I've never been to France, but I like that bakery on the Rotary in Nantucket in 1980. Hope it's still there. I know the bakery he's talking about there. But I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been there a long time. Have we seen the latest developments in the Syrian civil war? The SDF has crumbled, and ISIS prisons are soon to be in government control. Yeah, Syria's, not surprised. I mean, if anything, the only surprise that things are falling apart is that it took so long. I thought it would have happened earlier by now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that right now it's just the head chopper who's currently running Syria, and I use that term loosely because I'm not even sure he has control of Damascus. The people who put him in power are also the ones who are bombing the hell out of him. So I think he's just kind of paralyzed by indecision. The only thing he's able to do, unlike Zelensky, is wear a suit.
Yeah, well, he could probably stand to trim that beard too. Jackson McGrath, who had the best and worst domestic policy, foreign healthcare, etc. I think we're talking about like American presidents here.
Probably.
Certainly for healthcare, you got to go with LBJ, right? Because he created Medicare and Medicaid as part of the war on poverty. Healthcare stuff wasn't really a concern during the New Deal. They didn't do that. I'm trying to think what else. What were the other parts of the question? Best foreign policy. So I mean, I'd say the best foreign policy. You have to go back to like maybe someone like Thomas Jefferson.
Washington for me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like Thomas Jefferson didn't want to get involved overseas, and if he did, he only wanted to do it with congressional approval.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, George Washington for me is the standard for what a president should be, and without a doubt, the absolute worst president in American history was Abraham Lincoln. I mean, talk about a dude, who if Trump could be Lincoln, that's the dictator he would be. Honest to God. I mean, no other American president waged war on his own people and put 700,000 people in the ground doing it. So, I mean, talk about a tyrant. There you go.
Frasmataz, question for Ted. If you had to pick one supreme commander for all of planet Earth, military dictator, would it be Charles de Gaulle, let's say the 1950 version, or Richard Nixon, 1969 version? Man, you're killing me, Fraz. That is a tough question for sure, because both of them would be so problematic in so many ways. I mean, I would, I guess I'd have to go de Gaulle, because de Gaulle had the seeds of his future decision to pull out of Algeria in him by that point. And what was ahead for de Gaulle was like pulling out of NATO, putting France first. Nixon in 1969, he was like about to expand the Vietnam War, and in an effort to be in a better position to end it later, which is, I think, really gross and disgusting. So that would be me.
Yeah, I don't. If I had to pick world dictator, I think I have to go with Julius Caesar, because in addition to being a brilliant military strategist and commander, he was also a reformer, and I think that he legitimately cared about the plight of the average Roman citizen. And I think that he realized that the republic was so sick that it could not be restored without burning it down and then building it back up. But he got assassinated before he was able to do it.
Petey Hendricks on Rumble says that they're originally from Kettering, my hometown. So shout out to Kettering, Ohio. I used to live on near David Road and Far Hills Avenue, if you know that. So that was my mom's house. Yeah, and so let's see here. Judge Napolitano agrees with Robbie about Lincoln, says longtime listener. And I have heard that discussion as well. I always wonder how Dark Works wants to know. Always wonder how the founders would handle things today.
That's a good question, because the world is so much different now from when it was back then. I mean, I think that's a big part of the problem with the Constitution that we have, is that the world has fundamentally changed. The country has changed. We're no longer 13 quasi-independent agrarian colonies. We're a transcontinental empire with 350 million people, and then overseas bases that allow us to effectively control one continent in its entirety and arguably a quarter of another one. I honestly don't know. I don't know what they would do. They'd probably just shake their head and say, "What the hell did y'all do?"
So, Robbie, can a pastor, a man of God,
mm-hmm.
I'm assuming this is a guy in this case, can a man of God, a pastor, can they be an official at ICE also? Is that like, do those things work together?
Yeah, why wouldn't they?
Well, I mean, ICE is a brutal, militaristic, constitution-hating force that is dragging innocent people out of their beds out into the street naked. I mean, they're shitheads. They're the Gestapo. I mean, can a man of God belong to the SS?
Again, yes, because here's the qualifier for this, right? The qualifiers to be a pastor and to be a good Christian whenever it comes to government is that, well, first let's start with the qualifications to be a pastor, because that's the easier part to do. And as a Bible thumping Christian, I'm qualified to answer this question. You have to be married to one woman, and you got to have kids. That's the qualification to be a pastor. You got to be married to one woman and have kids, because the Bible says if you can't run your house, you can't run a church. So right there's the requirement. Now, when it comes to how Christians should work with government, it's all about you obey government, provided government does not overstep into and try to take an authority that does not belong to it. So a good example of this would be if you, well, let's just take it where it was when Paul and Peter wrote this. They were subjects to the Roman Empire. They said, no, you obey the laws. That's what Romans 10 is all about. That's what First Peter is all about. Being good citizens, you obey the laws, unless they unless they try to take power that contradicts what the Bible says. So if Caesar says you have to worship me, that's when the Christian says no. But if Caesar says you got to pay me taxes, you pay him taxes, because that is in his purview. That is his jurisdiction. He's able to do this.
But that's also, paying taxes isn't a sin in Christianity.
Yeah, well, neither is deporting people illegally.
Well, but beating up and brutalizing innocent old men who haven't broken any law and dragging them out into the cold and kidnapping them, I don't think that's Christian.
Well, it's not Christian, and those people should be.
But that's what ICE does.
That's what some people in ICE do.
Right.
There's other people.
But the thing is, the entire organization is guilty because there's no accountability for that. Right. So this isn't like, if an the bad apples argument only works when you have a force that says, okay, we've got 10,000 cops and this cop did something he wasn't supposed to do, but we're going to investigate him and we're going to punish him. And if he's found guilty, he will be fired. But that's not, ICE doesn't do that. ICE has made very clear that they have quote unquote absolute immunity and that they have the right to detain US citizens and break all sorts of laws. So, I mean, the thing is, ICE is a lawless organization. So even if you yourself as a member of ICE aren't doing anything wrong, if you're part of an evil organization, that's like basically like, if I join the mafia and I don't break any laws, I'm still going to go to prison for RICO because I joined the mafia. I mean, if you join ICE, you're part of a law-breaking, evil organization, and one that is completely unaccountable. So how can you how can you consider yourself Christian and be a member of ICE?
Easily, because again, it's this is not hard. You're pitching me a really slow ball right across the plate here. So I appreciate it.
Great, anytime.
So ICE is a law enforcement organization that its mandate is to enforce immigration law.
Correct.
The whole reason ICE exists is because you have local governments who defy federal immigration law, which violates that, by the way, the oath that they take to the Constitution, because they swear to uphold it. Immigration law is a real law. It is a thing. It was passed by Congress. It was signed by a president. It is the law.
All true.
Those law enforcement agencies, led by their governors, are defying those laws. Therefore, the federal government, doing what governments do, go in and then they assert their authority to have those laws enforced
illegally.
You're right. If the people were not here illegally, there would be no reason for ICE to exist. I agree with you.
No, I'm talking about. I'm saying they're doing their job illegally. I mean, for example, just on 60 Minutes recently, a top official of ICE asserted that anyone who ICE encounters on their way to or from apprehending a suspect is subject to detention and having to show their papers. Now, that's not true. That's not our law, but that's what they're doing in Minnesota, right? So this Hmong guy, he's home. Mm-hmm. They didn't do their work. They were like, this guy, he has dark skin, he's swarthy. We'll arrest his naked old ass and drag him out into the cold. That's illegal, okay? I mean, that's illegal. And the thing, and so up until this point, I don't actually. I understand shit happens. People and organizations make mistakes. But here's the trouble. There's no world in which the guys who did that are going to have even a letter go into their file. Nothing's going to happen. That's the problem. That's what makes them a lawless organization. It's that when their own members fuck up and break the law, there's no consequences whatsoever.
I agree. And that's the beauty of our system. And this is the argument that I made last week. And people looked at me like my head was screwed on backwards. We have the ability in this country to officially nullify federal law. So if that's what you want to do, if that's the game that you want to play, the Governor Tampon Tim, he has two different options here that he's able to do. Well, he has three. One, he can let ICE do whatever ICE is going to do. That's number one. Number two, he could order his law enforcement to actually start doing this thing called their job and start holding people on detainers who are here illegally. Then ICE goes into the jails, picks them up, and then there's no more sweeps around Home Depot. There's no more going to people's houses because they're all in the jails.
We're not sure that they would stop doing that, right?
Well, it's a good way to find out. And if they don't, that's when you do option number three, which is you officially go before the state legislature and you nullify immigration law officially, and then you order your sheriffs to take out the ICE officials out of the county, because the sheriff is the supreme law enforcement of the county. If that doesn't work, then you can also call up this thing called the militia. We still have it.
Okay, so setting aside Tim Walz and his choices that he's making or not making, the fact still remains that you haven't really answered my question about the past.
I did answer your question.
I don't see how you can be if you belong to ICE, you're part of a criminal organization by definition. Do Christians agree with joining criminal organizations?
Okay, was ICE created by Congress?
Yes.
Okay, then it's not a criminal organization by definition.
Organization because it's literally behaving illegally, and they're behaving illegally with no promise to try to change course or fix what they're doing. They know they're breaking the law. They've been called out. They continue to do it.
What law are they breaking?
You're not allowed to ask American citizens who are unrelated to an investigation for their ID.
But don't you think this all goes back what we were talking about before about rushing the zone and just overwhelming the system? The whole reason,
but that's illegal in this case, right?
In this case, this is
you can't do it. You can't set up a roadblock and just ask everybody there who pulls up there for their ID. You're not allowed to do that.
But you can, because we're doing it.
Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has been very clear. You can't do that.
Okay, so the Supreme Court was very clear that Dred Scott wasn't a person and had him sent back south. So let's not pretend that the Supreme Court always gets it right.
Okay, but the Supreme Court certainly doesn't always get things right, but they're the law of the land. My argument is that ICE is a lawless organization like the SS. Therefore, it's unchristian to belong to it.
I disagree. So, okay, explain to me, what exactly is it about enforcing federal immigration law?
Nothing. They can enforce the law. The problem is they're not enforcing the law correctly within the law.
Well, then how about
like they are themselves breaking laws while they're purporting to enforce the law.
Correct. Because local law enforcement are not doing their jobs, not enforcing the law.
Power because isn't important.
Nature abhors a vacuum, Ted. This isn't a secret. If you have federal government and you say you must do this,
doesn't make them a lawful organization, even if I know why they exist. I know why they exist. I know how we got here, but that's not the definition.
Okay, so so let me ask you this: is the United States military a lawful organization?
Not really. No.
Okay.
Because the U.S. military murders, for example, Venezuelan fishermen, and there's no. And the thing is, the guys who do that are not considered rogue. They're not court-martialed. There's no consequence. So yeah, it's a lawless organization. Anybody who joins the U.S. military is part of a illegal organization. It's a gang. It's a criminal gang.
I agree. I agree with you on this. And the reason is because the U.S. military is going out waging war without an authorization from Congress.
Right. That's illegal.
Just like, for example, I don't think that the FBI should exist. It shouldn't be a thing. I don't think that
I agree with that too.
Federal law enforcement shouldn't be a thing. None of those things are constitutional.
I agree.
So now that we've established what should be, let's look in the system that we currently have. We do not live in a constitutional republic. We haven't for a century. Well, that is a statement of fact.
By the way, I want to just answer the question for S. Kowalchuk. How did Robbie get to become the person that he is? Well, he's always evolving, so there's that. But I would recommend that you go watch the Rumble Premium episode, Robbie's Life, which I interviewed Robbie, and it goes a long way towards answering those questions, I think. Anyway, Robbie, thank you so much for sitting in for John Kiriakou. Yep. We are going to be back tomorrow on Wednesday, January 21st, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. John will be back in his chair. He'll be back from his travels, and no doubt with ready to hit the road. Robbie will be back in the producer's chair. Please stay tuned for TMI with me, Ted Rall, and Manila Chan. That's coming up right now. And also now we're going to run the outro for the very first time for the people who this is honoring those of you who supported and have been supporting the show as Tier 1 members on YouTube. As promised, here's a big thank you. See you on the other side.